I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
A few examples of the rebound back. Our baseline of daily infections now, even though it's way down from where it was 300,000+ per day, it's down to around 70,000. That baseline's too high, Chuck. Once you start pulling back, the thing you don't want is to have a plateauing at a level that's so high that inevitably things are going to go back up. And that's the reason why we understand the need and the desire, understandably, to want to just pull back because things are going in the right direction. But you've got to get that baseline down lower than it is now, particularly.
We'll come back to Fauci in a minute. Welcome to video 37. Joe Biden is Tim Allen, etc. Or the alternative title, When Prosthetics Go Wrong and the Meaning of Life. Sometimes prosthetics fail, but as we shall see, sometimes they are pretend going wrong, telling us something. Telling the few with eyes to see, that is, those few who have been switched on by the hidden world and are no longer NPCs. I had told some people that my next two videos were going to be on royals, but because of the Queen's recent passing, I thought I would leave those until next year out of respect. I do like the institution of monarchy, and I respect it, even if it is an act. Buckingham Palace Wives is my favourite reality TV show, and most of what is presented to us by the news is an act for our entertainment. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. Look at Theresa May, bottom right. When the eyes are so deep set compared to the surrounding skin, that could be an indication of masking. We'll see more definite indications of masking. Anyway, I'll do the royal ones next year, probably. Well, yeah, at the latest. Subscribe if you want to see them. This is the imposter card from the Illuminati card game, 1982, and extensions of the game in the 90s. The imposter's full face mask we can see is coming away at the neck, just like what we saw from Fauci. This is not a prediction, obviously. It is disclosure. If you see my video 13, I'll link the videos I mentioned at the end in the last 20 seconds. The Donald Pleasence character says that they plan in outline decades before, but only plan in detail the year before. And I'm sure that's disclosure, i.e. reality. It just makes sense, it's logical. So the Illuminati game, like The Simpsons, may not give us details because they're not always details at the time of printing, but often give us the outline, the main idea of what is to come. Now I show the imposter card because it shows an imposter with full face mask, but it's not the same as the Fauci situation where he's just an actor playing an invented character. Fauci and the few that follow that I show are about masks, but this video is not a good one to introduce someone to the subject of what is called actor-based reality, because of course they're difficult to analyse. They cover the entire head. Full face masks. Much more common is like a third face mask, but we're going to have a look at bigger face masks. So if you're trying to convince somebody of multi-role acting, now this is not really the one to show. It's for those who already accept it, who already know it, who have some background in the subject. So who is Fauci? Well, I think the Who is Who in Hoaxology channel has got it right. Mel Brooks. Everything is hidden with the mask. The mask user even gets a new set of ears. But you can use this normally useless program, Pictriev, in the one single situation where it works, where you get a huge similarity percentage, like 88% here. It must use maths, distances between all the facial points, corner of eyes, centre of eyes, tip of nose, corner of mouth, etc. That's why it's important in this program to get similar angled photos. It is notoriously inaccurate. You can feed it 2 photos of yourself and it may say something like 60% similarity. So it's useless unless it gets a very high, rare high percentage like this. Then it's worth noting. Facial recognition, like you see in Bond films or The Bourne Identity, where a street camera in one country can send a facial image to a secret agency face database in another country, and they get a match and they are alerted, is not reality, and I don't think it ever will be. There's probably a lot more than maths involved in facial recognition. This channel has some good historical actor-based reality. I don't know if it still does. He took down a lot of videos. Things like a general on one side of the American Civil War also played a general on the other side. And they're quite clear matches. They wouldn't have been so cautious in those days before video, film and so on. The Civil War was a hoax war just like today's wars. But there were people in the US to hoax. 100 years before that, the American War of Independence, also known as the Revolutionary War, I would guess that's just invention, like all of history beyond a certain point. Because it's largely illogical, it doesn't make sense. Hard to see through masks, but they love using comedians in these big roles. See my video 22, same head size here. Let's have a look at some full face masks, starting with the most amateur and moving towards professional. This mask is a joke mask aimed at the buying public. Very thick latex, doesn't taper in at the eyes. Thick so it won't break, to be used at parties. Completely disguises the woman. Her flesh movements cannot be seen through it. It's a bloke. And this one is a bit more detailed. Another full face mask. Again, it is pretty thick. It's not so obviously a mask like the last one. Oh, you can see his eyes are a much younger man. They haven't done his eyes yet. Could be used for a minor film character, low budget, semi-professional mask. A lot of character in it, a lot of detail. It's certainly interesting. Ah, it's a girl. This is a more professional mask, more Hollywood, and by extension more actor-based reality. Here changing white to black. And this needs latex work after the mask is in place to blend it in. And finally with makeup. These photos are from an Insider magazine video using silicone and plaster to make a cast. The cast can then be used to make a designer mask and also to experiment with latex. Alex Winter, made to look like an old woman. Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, old men in Bill and Ted. The point of these particular ones is they're not changing certain important fundamentals of the person because they want the actor to be recognised, but just to look much older. These techniques could also be used for deception, and of course we know they are. In my video number 6, the first video in my actor-based reality playlist, I use a thumbnail from a different documentary. Hollywood tells us all its tricks. A photo of a depository which has busts of all the actors. I think they keep them for more than a memento of a particular film or more than possible use in a future film. Hollywood writes the scripts for the world stage. We're going to look at a mask of Amanda Bynes. I hadn't heard of her before I looked into all the people Miley Cyrus plays for video 30. Miley plays all these and more, a couple of minor characters too. And I looked at Amanda again in video 31. I made the point that from the beginning, when she was a young girl, they made her look quite different from Miley. Now, incidentally, it seems Amanda is not played by Miley anymore. She's been replaced by this actress on the right. Kind of a retirement from public view, I guess. Amanda Bynes was a masked Miley from the beginning, although they had identical teeth, as shown in one of those two videos I just showed you. Now, when I talk of mask, it could be a full facial mask, or maybe a mask just covering the upper third and middle third of the face. Some masks just cover the cheeks and flap over the nose. But I think Amanda's covers at least the two upper thirds of her face. Note the very fine but very marked supratarsal crease pointed to here. Not natural in this case. You have to ask, why does it come down along the side of the nose? You can see it's raised up a bit here. It's the edges of a mask. And you can see it comes down below the eyes as well. And you can see it clearly in almost all photos of her. Now here, if she was an older woman, I would think Botox face. Botox everywhere. Big smile, but only seen in the mouth and the eyes. The rest of the face is frozen out. But women this young don't fill themselves up with Botox. This one is masked, mask face. In my video 32, I showed that these two chess grandmasters are the same man. I think this Japanese-American grandmaster, Hikaru Nakamura, might be the same man too, but masked in this case. But how can they be the same, you say? They've been photographed together. If you ask that question, then watch my video 31, When Photos Fail. Masks make things very difficult for us, but not impossible. We can still look for several things: the underlying structure, identical habits, and also for something that is fake about them. Disguises leave clues. These two have the same stocky build, same fat levels, same hands and height. Although when photos are created, Magnus is made to look taller. And they have tells. One tell is a regular habit of looking through the sides of their eyes, i.e. not moving their head when they change their glance, sometimes called a coy look with women. Hikaru's earlobe here looks fake to me. When they build up an earlobe with prosthetics, it often looks odd, just like this, lumpy. And look at the skin around his eyes. Exactly the same thing Amanda Bynes had going on. That sharp edge of skin coming down alongside his nose and flaring out a bit, which is really the edge of a mask. The lower eye part of the mask edge is in an area that doesn't move, so it can be easily blended in. I think this is the main evidence about this guy. Why is he wearing a face mask? I'm not an expert in this, but the skin surrounding these eyes seem very different. Surely, if anything, old Japanese men should have more folds and creases than young men. Japanese generally don't even have a supratarsal crease, and Japanese and Chinese, Korean women in the West often get plastic surgery to actually add one, which is crazy, because they're beautiful just as God made them, and it's interesting to be different. I think we have some tells here. Look at the little fingers of their left hands, both pointing down, and now look at the little fingers of their right hands, both curling round in the same direction. A unique way of holding things. Look at the nasolabial folds on these two. They change direction at the same place and with the same angle. The same teeth show in their smile. I've noticed at least one of them is always wearing a beard. Stick-on beards are so popular among the multi-roles to hide features, to hide the jawline. It's annoying. And in the photo, the fake photo of the match, they both have thick beards, because this particular montage of them will have been getting more views than all of the others, and it shows them in profile, which is a very informative angle, and an angle that Hollywood actors try to avoid, but chess players can't avoid it. These are the top 8 world grandmasters in order. Numbers 1 Magnus, 3 Ian, and 6 Hikaru are the same man. But hold on, something strange this way comes, something else. Look at numbers 4 Alireza, 5 Fabiano, and 8 Anish. I think maybe somebody else wants to muscle in and be 3 grandmasters all in one. I haven't checked this one out, but room for research here certainly. Maybe the powers that be want all grandmasters to be just 2 men and then ultimately just 1 man to simplify the organisation of tournaments. Look at the back of Joe Biden's neck at the bottom. Interface of mask and skin and weird latex folds coming down the neck from behind the ear. The current Biden is comedian Tim Allen. I didn't put these Biden montages together. It's been noticed by many others. There is a US son, apparently, a great export. Why is Tim Allen not voicing Buzz Lightyear? Well, he wants to concentrate on his new role as president. Buzz Lightyear, if you don't know, is a cartoon character that falsely thinks he has superpowers. He's based on Buzz Aldrin, the pretend astronaut that told people he went to the moon. Aldrin is Kirk Douglas. You can pause and enlarge this if you want to read it. They made a big effort disguising Douglas, but as always, not so much effort for his wife, who's also Aldrin's wife. Another Aldrin equals Douglas, this time from Randy Nobody. And if you're interested, actor John Lear was Neil Armstrong and Yuri Gagarin, and Charlton Heston was Gene Cernan. The article goes on, second paragraph, the character returns as a younger version of the fan favourite. A different actor is stepping in to fill the space boots. Well, yes, a different actor is stepping in to play Biden. 2 or more actors for 1 character is my next video, or soon, maybe not the very next. For example, the last 4 presidents, including Biden, have had at least 2 actors, 2 that I'm sure of, playing them in their lives. They usually do the swap before or after they become president. Back to the article, third paragraph. Captain America himself, Chris Evans, is taking over as a much younger Buzz Lightyear. Well, Tim Allen could be said to be becoming Captain America as president. And the film is based on the original story of Buzz and not the same character in the Toy Story films. It is said to be a separate movie from the Toy Story films, focusing solely on the man the toy is based on. It's nonsense, but nonsense with double meaning, as is their wont. Ron Paul on the left here used to be the great hope for the right wing in the United States, like Bernie Sanders on the right here used to be the great hope for the left wing, more intellectual than the main runners. These were politicians that the more intellectual could identify with. Maybe they still play that role today, I don't know. But I know they're both multi-role actors. We're going to look at Ron Paul in a second and his particular prosthetic fail. Bernie Sanders also plays a comedian, naturally, they like that. And also a Rothschild, also naturally because they love the same man to simultaneously play a gutsy left-wing hero and a supposedly ruthless right-wing financier. All of this acting and comedians is the system telling us that these material things are not important, politics, etc. Well, they are actually, because it's our world, it's what we experience. But it is a joke as well. It's a temporary test realm. Out, brief candle, but our spirit will move on. Ron Paul's stick-on eyebrows are failing. They're falling off. Studio light's too hot. So who is he? Well, I think he's lots of people. This is from Ed Carini, Sir Ian McKellen. Not hard to believe. Many similarities. Close-up of ears and teeth there. I also think he played actor John Mahoney, who played Kelsey Grammer's father in the comedy series Frasier. Another with Ian McKellen. It says, is Ian McKellen being hired to discredit Paul? Well, we'll read that at the end. Sounds bullshit to me, but interesting. Michael Palin too. This is not Carini. I don't know who did this. Ears look similar. Very similar. Prosthetic piece on Palin's lower ear, building up the tragus and antitragus. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada. Same thing happening with his eyebrows. Why would a leader, supposed to be confident, his own man, wear false eyebrows? So, who is he? Hollywood A-lister Matthew McConaughey. These photos are taken from a Chris Reynolds tattoo video. He was one of the channels I recommended in the description of my video number 6. Look at that chin. One instance often gets caps on their teeth, and it's almost always the Hollywood instance. Okay, let's see what shill rubbish Ed Carini writes above these photos. Sir Ian McKellen. If it were going to be someone, I guess it would make sense that they would be loyal to the Queen. Well, the royals are just actors too. Surely you were one of the ones that showed us that. He goes on. Or is it McKellen being hired to discredit Ron Paul? Well, it's a lot bigger than that, isn't it? I'm sure it's every single famous person has a multi-role. The deep state psyop, where the idea is that there are different groups secretly fighting each other, is just BS. There's no evidence. Reality appears a lot more stable than that. Leadership is secret, but it's all wrapped up and unified. He goes on. But notice the brown contacts on Dr. Paul. Who wears brown contacts when you have blue eyes? Someone who is trying to hide their identity, that's who. Well, that's true at least. The different characters of multi-role all have coloured contacts. Eye colour, hair colour and cut are always changed, just like the nose and ears are almost always changed. And the real eye colour doesn't always have to be the lighter colour. Ron Paul brown eyes could be his natural colour, and he puts on blue contacts when he plays Ian McKellen. Okay, looking more deeply at this pantomime. Actor-based reality is easily achievable within the known material world, unlike the Mandela effect changes that took place in 2016, which were more involved. Not materially possible, but they happened nevertheless. The same tough humour in the material world exists in the hidden world. I think hidden world is probably the best phrase for it, but usually referred to as God or the spirit world or creationism. So this tells us that this humour, these practical jokes such as actor-based reality and fake animal species and every other hoax, ultimately comes from the hidden world. It's a shame if the hidden world hasn't switched you on to all of this yet, because it is fascinating, and I don't think awareness can be arrived at purely by an intellectual process. Somewhere under the shill movement, the truth movement's general message of be afraid, be very afraid, is the idea that we're all slaves and the supposed controllers, like the Pope, just love to deceive us and hate us and harm us. We are supposedly chattel by nature of our birth certificate. We are the property of the Rothschilds, or half the world is, with the other half being owned by the Crown. But it's really just a clown show. I'm writing more analytical videos simultaneously with each other. They won't be ready for many months though. More videos like this one to be uploaded in the meantime, however. The shield movement never goes deep, does it? It never analyses beyond the superficial or the false. Ed Carini now plays a leading flat earther. I covered him in video 33, but I'm grateful to the hundreds of multi-roles he was tasked with disclosing. These multi-roles were disclosed by Ed in 2012, and a bit later by some others, and then they were never mentioned again. I know it was just a job for them, but I still find that weird. The truth isn't banned, as in the book 1984. It's just out there in tiny corners of the internet where few go, surrounded by a world of fluff and distraction, as in the book A Brave New World. These people have to spend ages having uncomfortable masks, prosthetics, latex all stuck on, and then foundation put on top. And then they can't take it off until the day's filming is over. So maybe they're the slaves. And maybe they're tasked with putting on a mystery for us to unravel, for us, for those with eyes to see, for those lucky enough to have been switched on, so they can play the game as a player character and not as an NPC. It's a game for your free will, so hold on to it. No point being frightened, upset or confused, because it's just a joke. And the supposedly satanic elite are obviously unseen, but also obviously not satanic. Harmless bureaucrats, probably like Donald Pleasence here. See you next time.